she said. Let's take a break. And the next thing I knew, I was standing in the middle of our living room holding a mug of cold coffee, staring at a note she'd left on the counter like it was some kind of puzzle. No fight, no screaming, just that one line. A break. I didn't call her. I didn't text. Not because I wanted to be strong, but because I was too numb to do anything. I just sat there for hours, listening to the clock tick like it was counting down to something. Days went by, then weeks. I stopped checking my phone. I stopped sleeping. It felt like I was trapped in this weird limbo where time didn't matter anymore. Then I saw her. Not intentionally. She was just there, across the street, walking with someone. A guy I'd never seen before. His hand brushed hers, and she didn't pull away. That image burned into me like acid. And I realized something. I was done. I wasn't taking a break. I was taking freedom. I vanished. I packed up, left the keys on the counter, and walked out of that apartment without looking back. I blocked her number. I deleted every picture of her, every reminder she ever existed. It wasn't courage, it was survival. But the silence didn't last. It never does. 2 months later, she found me. First, it was a voicemail, her voice shaking, saying she'd made a mistake. Then she showed up at my door one night, eyes red, hair tangled like she'd been running through the rain. She said she was shattered without me. The thing is, I wasn't the same man she left. And what I'd been through while I was gone, that's a story she'll never believe. When I walked out of that apartment, I didn't have a plan. I didn't even have a destination. I grabbed an old duffel bag, stuffed in a couple of shirts, my laptop, and a toothbrush, and just started driving. My car became my escape pod, a metal coffin where I could scream without anyone hearing me. I drove through the night with no music, no calls, just the hum of the tires and my brain chewing me alive. By sunrise, I'd reached a small town 3 hours away, the kind of place where the only thing open at 6 a.m. is a diner with peeling red booths and bad coffee. I sat in that diner for hours, staring at my reflection in the greasy window, wondering if this was what starting over looked like. It didn't feel like freedom yet. It felt like losing. But then, somewhere between my third refill of coffee and the waitress asking if I wanted pie, I made a decision. I wouldn't wait for her to figure out what she wanted. I would erase her. If she wanted space, I'd give her the kind of space she'd never fill again. The next few weeks were a blur. I found a cheap room above a bar. Cash only, no questions asked. It smelled like mildew and regret, but it was mine. I started working random shifts at the bar downstairs just to keep myself from thinking too much. I didn't talk to anyone except customers, and even then, it was just small talk about beer or the weather. I was invisible, and I liked it. But one night, that changed. A woman walked into the bar, dark hair, sharp eyes, the kind of presence that made the whole place feel smaller. She wasn't like Claire. There was nothing soft about her. She sat down, ordered whiskey neat, and said, "You look like a man trying to disappear." I don't know why I talked to her, but I did. Maybe because she didn't ask for my story. Maybe because her eyes looked like they'd seen worse than me. Her name was Iris. That was the night things shifted. Not because I was falling for her. God, no. But because I realized I didn't need to be the man Claire left behind anymore. I could become someone she'd never even recognize. And as I started pulling myself together, cutting off every piece of my old life, Claire suddenly decided she wanted me back. The first letter arrived a month later. No return address, just my name scrawled in her handwriting. I almost tore it up, but curiosity won. Inside, she wrote that she'd made a huge mistake and couldn't stop thinking about me. She begged me to come home. But the thing is, the man she left behind wasn't coming home. What I didn't know was that she wasn't just going to ask. She was going to find me, and she wasn't coming alone. The second letter wasn't just desperate, it was unnerving. Claire's handwriting looked frantic, like she'd written it in a rush. Every word smudged, as if her hands were shaking. She said she'd do whatever it takes to fix things, that she'd been seeing someone but realized she was empty without me. I didn't respond. I wasn't sure if I hated her or if I was still the same pathetic man who would have run back at the first hint of regret. But by that point, Iris had started to change things for me. Iris wasn't a girlfriend. We weren't even really close. She was a storm in human form, unapologetic, reckless, and brutally honest. She had this way of looking at me, like she could see every weakness I was trying to hide and was daring me to stop pretending. "Your wife," she said one night, sipping whiskey while we sat in the empty bar after closing. She's the kind of person who takes until there's nothing left. You think running from her will fix that? It won't. You'll just carry her ghost around like an anchor. I didn't answer because, deep down, I knew she was right. One night, maybe a week later, I saw Claire. Not in a letter, not in a memory. I saw her. She was standing across the street from the bar, in the pouring rain, watching me through the window. I froze, glass in my hand, as if seeing her would shatter me all over again. Iris noticed immediately. "Who's that?" she asked, but I couldn't speak. Claire didn't come inside. She just stood there, like a shadow, and then walked away before I could move. I thought maybe I was imagining it, that my guilt had conjured her up. But the next day, she was waiting for me in the parking lot. No makeup, hair messy, eyes swollen from crying. "Leonard," she whispered, stepping closer like I was some wild animal she didn't want to spook. "Please, just talk to me." Every part of me wanted to scream, to ask her how she could come crawling back after crushing me. But I just stared. I think part of me wanted her to hurt as much as I had. And then Iris walked out of the bar. She didn't say a word, just stood there with that cold, assessing look, as if sizing up a rival. Claire's eyes darted to Iris, and I swear I saw something break in her expression. Later that night, Iris cornered me in the storeroom. "She's not done with you," she said. "She'll keep digging until she gets what she wants. People like that don't accept losing." She wasn't wrong. What I didn't realize then was that Claire wasn't here to ask for forgiveness. She was here to win, and she was willing to burn everything, me, Iris, and whatever life I was trying to build, to the ground. What happened that night, when all three of us ended up in the same room, changed everything. I should have known that night was going to spiral out of control. The tension between Claire and Iris had been brewing ever since Claire showed up outside the bar, like some ghost clawing her way back into my life. I thought I could keep them apart, thought I could keep my world from colliding, but Claire wasn't going to stay on the sidelines. And Iris? She wasn't the kind of woman who backed down from anyone. It was late, maybe close to midnight, and I'd just finished wiping down the bar. Iris was leaning against the counter, watching me with that half-smirk she always wore when she was about to say something brutally honest. "You going to tell her you're done, or are you going to keep letting her crawl back into your head?" she asked, sipping her whiskey like she had all the time in the world. Before I could even respond, the door swung open. Claire walked in like she owned the place. Her hair was wet, rain dripping down her jacket, and her eyes locked on me with a kind of desperation I'd never seen before. "Leonard," she said, voice trembling but loud enough to cut through the quiet. "We need to talk. Now." Iris didn't move. She just stood there, still leaning on the bar, but her smirk was gone. The air between them was electric, like a storm waiting to hit. I tried to defuse it, mumbling something about stepping outside, but Claire ignored me and walked straight up to Iris. "Who are you?" Claire's tone wasn't curious. It was venomous, the kind of voice that starts a war. "I'm nobody," Iris said flatly, not even looking at her. "But I know exactly who you are. You're the woman who threw him away like he was trash." I swear I saw Claire flinch. Her lips parted like she wanted to fire back, but nothing came out at first. Then she turned to me, her voice breaking. "Leonard, I made a mistake, okay? I thought I needed space, but I didn't. I needed you. I needed us. Please, please don't let her come between us." The words twisted like knives. Part of me wanted to believe her so badly it made me sick, but Iris stepped closer, eyes cold. "He doesn't need you anymore. He doesn't need your guilt, your games. You left, and now you're here because you can't stand the fact that someone else might see his worth." What came next felt like it was happening in slow motion. Claire's voice rose, trembling but sharp. "You don't know anything about us," she shouted. "You don't know what we've been through." "You're right," Iris said. "I don't. And I don't care. What I know is that you're too late." The look on Claire's face when she heard that, I can't even describe it. Rage. Hurt. A kind of wild panic I'd never seen in her before. And then she turned back to me, tears streaming down her face, and whispered, "If you walk away now, Leonard, you'll regret it for the rest of your life. You don't know what I've done for you." That last line hit me like a punch. What she'd done for me. Something in her tone wasn't just about love. It was about something darker, something she wasn't saying. Iris caught it too. I saw her eyes narrow, like she was trying to read Claire's mind. And that's when I realized there was something Claire had been hiding all along. Something that had nothing to do with our marriage, but everything to do with why she suddenly wanted me back. I remember standing there, my hand still on the rag I'd been using to wipe down the bar, staring at Claire like she'd just spoken in another language. "You don't know what I've done for you," she said again, softer this time. But her voice shook like she was on the verge of collapse. For a moment, the entire room seemed to shrink, the air heavy and suffocating. Iris folded her arms, her sharp eyes narrowing, as if she could slice through the silence. "What does that even mean, Claire?" I asked, my voice hoarse. "What are you talking about?" Claire's eyes darted between me and Iris, and for a second, I thought she'd bolt. But then, with a deep, trembling breath, she leaned on the bar and whispered, "You think I left you for some guy? You think I just wanted to find myself? That's what I wanted you to believe. I was trying to protect you, Leonard, from something I can't undo." The way she said it sent a chill down my spine. I glanced at Iris, who gave me a look that said, "Do not let her manipulate you." But I couldn't stop listening. My curiosity was like a chain dragging me closer to her. Claire's hands were shaking as she pulled something from her jacket pocket, a folded envelope, stained from the rain. She slid it across the bar toward me like it was a loaded weapon. "You need to read this," she said. "It's everything. It's why I left. It's why I'm here." I didn't open it right away. I didn't want to give her that satisfaction. "Why don't you just tell me?" I said. "If you've got something to confess, then spit it out." She hesitated, her lip trembling, and then she finally broke. "Because I did something terrible, Leonard. Something that could destroy us both if it ever came out. The night I asked for the break. I wasn't with another man, not exactly. I was covering for someone. Someone who—" She stopped, glancing at Iris, as if suddenly realizing she wasn't alone. "This isn't for her," she hissed. "Funny," Iris said coolly. "You're suddenly shy now that you're cornered. Whatever it is you're hiding, Claire, I'm pretty sure it has nothing to do with saving Leonard and everything to do with keeping control." "Shut up," Claire snapped, her voice sharp like broken glass. "You don't know what you're talking about." The tension was unbearable. I finally ripped the envelope open. Inside were a few photos, grainy and clearly taken in secret. My stomach dropped. In the photos, Claire was with a man I'd never seen before, tall, sharp suit, the kind of guy who looked like trouble just by existing. But it wasn't just them standing together. They were exchanging something. A bag. Her face in the photos looked terrified, not like someone who was cheating, but like someone trapped. "What the hell is this?" I demanded, holding the photos up. Claire's eyes filled with tears. "I told you. I was trying to protect you. That man, he's not just some fling. He's dangerous. I got involved with him because of something stupid I did months ago, money I borrowed, favors I owed, and I thought I could fix it before it touched us. But I couldn't. I thought if I pushed you away, you'd stay safe. But he's not letting go. And now he knows about you." The silence that followed was suffocating. I felt Iris's hand brush my arm, grounding me, but her expression was different now, less judgmental, more calculating. "So, let me get this straight," Iris said slowly. "You're saying the reason you came crawling back is because this guy is after Leonard?" Claire nodded, her face pale. "You don't understand. He doesn't just go away. He's already been looking for me. For us." I wanted to call her bluff, tell her she was just spinning another web of lies. But deep down, something about the fear in her eyes told me this time, it wasn't just about me or her. There was something bigger lurking behind all of this, something I hadn't even begun to understand. And then, as if to prove her point, my phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. 5 words, written like a threat. "You can't hide forever." When I saw that text on my phone, something in me froze. I showed it to both of them without saying a word. Claire's face went white, and Iris, who never seemed rattled by anything, stared at the screen like she was mentally calculating all the ways this could go wrong. There was no name attached, just that one, sharp message. "You can't hide forever." I wanted to believe it was some cruel prank, maybe even Claire trying to manipulate me again. But when I looked at her trembling hands and the way her breathing went shallow, I realized this wasn't an act. "Who is he?" I demanded, my voice louder than I intended. "What the hell have you dragged me into, Claire?" She swallowed hard, glancing over her shoulder as if someone might walk through the bar's door at any second. "His name's Victor," she said quietly, her voice cracking on the word. "I met him when I got desperate, when we were struggling with the mortgage, and I didn't want you to know how bad it was. He's not the kind of man you say no to, Leonard. He lends money, he makes promises, but once you take it, you're his." I thought I could pay him back, but then he started asking for favors. Illegal favors. Deliveries. Things I didn't even want to think about. I never told you because I thought I could fix it before you found out. The floor felt like it was falling out from under me. You dragged me into this because of money? I asked, my throat tightening. All of this. Our break. The lies. Everything. Because you were too scared to tell me the truth? I was protecting you. She shot back, tears running down her face. If I told you, you'd try to stop me, and Victor would have come after you. He doesn't forgive. He doesn't forget. When I saw you with her, she jerked her chin toward Iris. I knew I had to tell you before it's too late. He's not just after me anymore. He knows your name, Leonard. He knows where you are. Iris stepped forward, leaning one elbow on the bar, her voice steady but colder than ice. You're saying this guy is going to come for him? For both of you? And what? He just sends creepy texts before making a move. That's cute. This isn't a joke, Claire snapped. He doesn't play games. If he says you can't hide, he means it. I already tried hiding, and look where I ended up. Iris tilted her head slightly, her dark eyes narrowing. Then maybe it's time we stop waiting for him to come knocking. The idea of Iris and Claire standing on the same side was almost laughable, but at that moment, I didn't have any room for jokes. I was shaking, not just from anger, but from the sinking realization that my life had somehow become something out of a nightmare. I had walked away from Claire to escape her chaos, and now I was staring down the kind of chaos that didn't just break hearts, it broke bones. That night, I didn't go back to my tiny room above the bar. Iris insisted I crash on the worn-out couch in her apartment because, as she put it, if someone's watching you, you don't want to make it easy for them. Claire, however, refused to leave. She sat on that bar stool long after closing, her face buried in her hands, until finally she whispered, I'll take care of this. I'll fix what I started, even if it kills me. I didn't sleep at all. My phone buzzed 3 more times that night, each message worse than the last. They weren't threats anymore. They were reminders of how closely I was being watched. The last one made my blood run cold. She's already paid her price. Now it's your turn. By the time morning crept in through Iris's cracked blinds, I hadn't slept a single minute. My brain was a whirlwind of paranoia and anger, looping that last text message over and over. She's already paid her price. Now it's your turn. I must have read it 20 times, each time trying to decipher what price Claire had supposedly paid. When I finally looked over at Iris, sprawled on her chair with a half-empty bottle of whiskey on the table, I knew neither of us had rested. She didn't need to ask what was going through my head. Her eyes said it all. This wasn't going to end with us just running. Claire showed up again that morning, as if she had been waiting outside all night. She looked like hell, eyes swollen, hair damp, like she hadn't slept in weeks. He's not going to stop, she said the moment I opened the door. I thought maybe he'd just leave you alone, but he won't. Victor doesn't work like that. If he can't control me, he'll come after you. I was done being the quiet, obedient man she'd always counted on. Then tell me what he wants. I snapped. What did you promise him, Claire? Because from where I'm standing, it sounds like you didn't just borrow money. You got involved in something worse. And now I'm in it too. Her silence was answer enough. She dropped onto the couch, staring at the floor as if the right words were carved into the wood. It wasn't just money, she admitted finally. I transported something for him. Just once. I didn't even ask what was inside. I thought it would be quick, that I'd pay him back, and he'd leave me alone. But he's been holding it over my head ever since. I think he wants you now because he knows you're the only leverage left. Iris, who had been leaning against the wall like a cat ready to pounce, scoffed. Leverage? So what, he's planning to use Leonard like a bargaining chip? Or worse. She turned to me, her expression hard. We can't just sit here and wait for this guy to make the first move. We need to take the fight to him. I nearly laughed at the absurdity. Me? Take the fight to Victor, whoever the hell he really was. I could barely face my own wife without falling apart. And now Iris was talking about confronting some dangerous loan shark like this was an action movie. But then Claire's phone buzzed on the table, and I caught a glimpse of the message. You're out of time. Something in me shifted then. I was sick of being the man everyone pushed around. I was sick of waiting for life to crush me. Maybe it was fear, maybe it was pure desperation, but for once, I agreed with Iris. Fine, I said, surprising even myself. What's your plan? Iris's eyes lit up, but not in a reckless way. This was someone who'd been through fire before and learned to walk through it. First, we find out who Victor really is, where he operates, who he works with. Then we hit him where it hurts. If he's threatening you, it's because he thinks you're weak. So we show him you're not. We end this before it spirals out of control. Claire looked at her like she was insane. You don't understand, she said, her voice trembling. Victor isn't just some guy you can scare off. He has people. He has connections. If we make a move on him and fail, he won't just hurt us. He'll make sure we disappear. But Iris didn't flinch. Then we don't fail. The next few hours were a blur of whispered arguments and frantic brainstorming. Iris knew a guy who owed her a favor, someone who could dig up information about Victor, addresses, habits, weaknesses. It sounded reckless, and it probably was, but it was better than waiting for a stranger to put a bullet in my head. Claire hated it. She said we should just leave town, vanish. But something about the way Iris looked at me made me realize that running wouldn't save me anymore. Victor would always find us. By late afternoon, we had a rough plan. Iris would get the intel. Claire would try to buy us time by pretending to cooperate with Victor, feeding him just enough lies to keep him off our trail. And me? I'd have to face him sooner or later. The thought made my stomach churn, but what other choice did I have? As we finalized the plan, Iris looked at me, her voice low but steady. Leonard, if we do this, there's no going back. This isn't about Claire anymore. This is about you deciding if you're going to stay the man who always gets pushed around, or if you're going to take control for once in your life. I didn't answer her. I couldn't, because deep down, I wasn't sure if I had what it took to see this through. That night, as I lay awake on Iris's couch, my phone lit up with another message. This time, it wasn't a threat. It was a photo. A picture of my car, parked outside the bar, taken just minutes ago. The caption read, "Nice place. See you soon." That picture of my car sitting in the parking lot, with that taunting caption, "Nice place. See you soon," was the final push I needed. The fear that had been simmering in my chest all week hardened into something else. Anger. I was done being the man who let life, and everyone in it, decide what happened to me. The next day was chaos. Iris managed to dig up enough information on Victor to paint a clearer picture. He wasn't some untouchable criminal mastermind. He was a thug with a network of scared people, someone who relied on intimidation more than power. He had a weakness, and Iris found it. He was running a side operation that was just as illegal as his lone business, and he couldn't afford any police attention. If we could push back hard enough, make him believe we were willing to blow everything wide open, he'd back off. The three of us argued for hours about how to handle it. Claire was terrified. She didn't believe for a second that Victor would give in. But Iris, cool as always, said, "Guys like him only have power when you let them. The moment he realizes we're not afraid, he'll fold." We set it up that night. Iris contacted him directly from a burner phone, telling him to meet in a public place. A diner off the highway where there were cameras and plenty of people. "You want Leonard? You want to keep pushing this?" She said into the phone, her tone steady and cold. "Then let's talk face to face. But know this, if you so much as blink wrong, everyone will know what you're running." I expected Victor to refuse, but he didn't. That alone rattled me. He wanted control, and he thought a meeting would let him scare us. When he showed up, my hands were shaking so bad I almost couldn't open the door to the diner. He was exactly how I imagined. Sharp suit, expensive watch, eyes that scanned the room like he owned it. But when Iris slid a flash drive across the table, his expression faltered just slightly. "Everything on this drive goes to the police if anything happens to me, Claire, or Leonard," she said. "You think we don't know what you've been up to? You think we don't have copies of every file, every account? We're done playing your game." Victor leaned back, his eyes narrowing, studying each of us like a predator weighing his next move. "You don't scare me," he said finally. "You should," I said, surprising even myself. "Because I'm done being scared of you. You so much as call me again, and this isn't just going to the cops, it's going everywhere. And you know what kind of people will come for you then?" For a moment, I thought we were dead. His jaw tightened, and I saw his hand twitch like he wanted to grab me by the throat. But then he smirked, a small, cold smirk, and stood up. "You're not worth the trouble," he muttered. "Stay out of my way." And just like that, he walked out. The relief was overwhelming. I didn't even realize I'd been holding my breath until Iris squeezed my arm and said, "See? Power shifts when you stand up to it. Claire, sitting across from me, burst into tears, not from fear this time, but from pure exhaustion. We didn't see Victor again. A week later, we got word from Iris's contact that his operation had gone silent, probably moved somewhere far away. I moved out of the dingy apartment above the bar, and for the first time in what felt like forever, I felt like I could breathe. Claire and we didn't magically fix everything, but we started talking, really talking, for the first time in years. She apologized, not just for the lies, but for everything she'd let us become. And I admitted my own failures, how I'd spent so long being passive, letting life drag me instead of taking control. It wasn't easy, but we decided to give it another shot. As for Iris, she smiled the day I left the bar for good and said, "You're finally done running. Don't screw it up." She disappeared from my life as suddenly as she came in, and I think that's how she wanted it, like a storm that clears the air, then moves on. Now, when I think back to that night when Claire said, "Let's take a break," I almost laugh. Because that break wasn't the end of us. It was the start of something new. Painful, ugly, and messy, but real. We're stronger now, because I finally stopped being the man who waited for someone else to save him. For the first time in years, I feel free. And this time, no one is taking that from me.